Okay, welcome back. Last time we talked about a way of building up forms from markup. So rather than doing all the HTML stuff that you have to do, which a page like this is created with, this is inserts a bunch of HTML, there's style, etc. And there's a bunch of JavaScript code to verify when you do things. When you enter something that's not filled in, it'll give you a response, right? This one's got a bit of extra code there, monitoring the size of the text box. So that's a bunch of code to drive that, and I wanted to replicate the same behavior but with a set of markup. So you insert a set of square brackets, in other words a form in this case, and just plonk one on the front page. It's a replica of what that contact form does. It doesn't send anything anywhere, it just gives us the same ability to display the layout, add the fields, etc. So we can have text boxes and an email box. There's support for password boxes, but I haven't tested that here. So and it also doesn't just create the HTML, it creates the JavaScript as well. It's very simple, it just cuts and pastes these very simple routines for the validation together. So you enter something, hit enter, and actually when you hit enter in those boxes, it does a submission. And if the form is not complete, it'll take you to the next thing. So, home at home or whatever. Pick something from the drop down, hit submit. Wants us to enter that, enter some text in there. This is something. Go a bit shorter. Too short. Okay. Blah blah blah. One problem with this is going to be is the messages. We might have to customize the messages some other way. So if I use this is called the message box. This one here. It's for a larger document, for typing code or doing all those kind of things. So any errors that occur at the moment are pretty much an error that was crafted for the contact page. If I hit join now, it would try and submit that, but there's no action response on the PHP side of the equation. And that's it really. So take a look at this. Look at the declaration. This is what gave us that form. So we've got a name of the form, a submission URL which we haven't tacked in yet, a type. This is a post. In other words, something that we're going to send the information collected here to the server to do something with it. And each field we've got a name field, email, department, message, and it's a text box type, the name. Email is just a single line text box. In other words, it has no multi-line support. We have these limitations that are applied to it. If we go back to the page and take a look at the actual code, so even for a simple page, these things are a lot more complicated than what people might expect. And here's our form submission stuff in here. So some of this is template. It has if you use a form, it creates the template, inserts it into the page header, and then some of it's pieced together by what types of fields that you want to be collecting. It makes the username. And it makes this chunk of code here. It just runs through and validates the functions in order. So from top to bottom, they'll be validated. And this block here was cut and pasted from a chunk of predefined code I've written in the template. Where's the template? Form builder. So confused yet? Yeah, you should be. take you through it actually, just in case you're wondering. So to build a form, we have this blob of standard HTML. So when you insert the square bracket form tags into the PlayBASIC, pretty much, it then inserts this blob here, and then runs through and phrases the fields, inserts those into where this tag is in here. So what we haven't got at the moment is a way of customizing the submission button. So rather than have join now, you would have, you know, send email or whatever the form's going to be. Now for each field we need these standard blobs. We've got a blob of this, which is for a text box, a selection box. It's got its own little selection there. That's some old options that were out of the previous email box. Actually not needed anymore. Message box is much the same. It's the multi-line support with automatic scrolling, etc. So we've got three different things that these forms are comprised of. You've got the styling, which is we're overriding the default style of our form tags, and then the child tags or the input tags that are available inside those things. We've got a bunch of JavaScript that has to be created to do the validation inside the browser, so it's not sending data back every time you make a mistake, and then it purposely won't resend that data back. I guess it probably should inside. Once you're logged in, it probably should do that. But anyway, so here it's the JavaScript, and this is lightly customized as it's inserted. So it inserts the form name in the HTML at the top here. There's a call to this validate function. We're inserting the same form name there. So it's creating a custom validation function for this form. In theory, we can't do it at the moment. I don't think this will work. We could actually have multiple forms on a page, which is something we couldn't do beforehand. Very useful. So, you know, this can already recreate, for the most part, the contact form. Probably could recreate the login form. Yeah, pretty much, I'd say so. Going back to the template, this is just the text file that's customized and then spat out back into the HTML. Got a standard form JavaScript, some common elements of those pages that are always on those things, like a function to do, you know, validation of email addresses and just basic stuff like that. And these individual ones here, this is for a selection box, which is the drop down one, which is what the department stuff is using. Here, this is a drop down. It just wants to make sure you've selected something. Probably should have an upper limit as well, because it would know this limit now, whereas before I would have had to have hard coded that limit in there. Now I can just kind of get it to customize the code based on how many options I've entered into it. So you have a bunch of drop downs, just to select particular things. I don't know what you might be choosing, but let's say if you have different products or whatever you wanted to do, you could use the drop downs and change those things. You know what I'm getting at. The actual code itself, it's a bit of a mouthful. So the principle is this library here. Just a couple of functions that do this job. When we find a set of form tags, we phrase those out, which is this in this style up here. This is the template I was imagining. So that kind of straight text from each page of it's discovered gets found and inserted into the phrase function, and the phraser returns the name of the form, any stylings that this form has, JavaScript that needs, Does it need late binding JavaScript? So some code can be put at the bottom of the page to help speeding up loading the page. What HTML was created, what fields are available to it, the submission location. And it just goes through that framework, as we just looked at up here, and steps down each line and finds the things that we need. The name of the page, the submission URL, the type of page, the fields for us. Once we have those, we've got them in an array inside PHP. That just loads it. Then we need the creation function here, which is what this second function here is doing, this render function. So if this is called, we're passing in a form. We want to make sure this thing has a post type. In other words, it's for collecting information and sending it back to the server. I guess another type of form will be a display form, or we'll just have information only. Okay, so here we're grabbing the standard template for a post form, same as JavaScript. It's going to grab the common, the basic necessities for our JavaScript code for this form. So it has validation built into it. Some long variables there about. This is when we're making the JavaScript code, we have two things built that are stocking up. We've got a collection of these functions where we're grabbing from the template, customizing, and then sticking onto this blob here, and then the other part is the caller part. Just making an if-then statement that calls the function, and if the function succeeds, we fall past it. If it fails, it returns. It's just a straight for next loop. It's all the same stuff. In this IDE, if you highlight something, it picks up all of the occurrences of that, which can be kind of useful. It can help you spot where things actually are. But that's the render code. So the only one that has anything interesting really is the selection box, where it's, because the other ones, they're like a text box. It just grabs the text box template, customizes the name of it, and exports it back to the HTML, which then gets inserted back into the page in its position and via the template. Yeah, it's that awkward. Well, it's not awkward. It's just trying to standardize things is always kind of a bit of a pain in the backside. But it's a bit of pain up front to try and mitigate pain down. I've done a few other projects in the past where we had every form was handwritten. I mean, it's nice because you had nice, verbose errors on pages and things like that. But it was tedious. You made a lot of silly mistakes were made between the JavaScript side of the page might match the PHP validation side. That's one thing we might have to change in this kind of design, is that this may not be able to be, where are we going, sorry? Back to the homepage code. This is the actual homepage HTML. It's got a bit of garbage at the bottom there where I'm messing around with this stuff at the bottom of the page. These headline scrolling stuff and this selection sort of rounded boxes there for styling. Now, the part I'm trying to get to is that this is great for the display side, but when we do a submission and the fields are collected up by the browser and sent to a page on the server, I'll actually need this information here. And I've got no way of retrieving that, so I might have to store the form declarations in like a standard pool and then refer to them by name. So rather than this page having this on it at all, you might just have, something like, insert form, and then this might be the, send email or something like that form. And now, when the phraser sees this pair, it would look up what the send email form is, which will be defined in one central place where all the forms are declared. And the reason why we might need to do that is that so I can use the same loading and verification code to do the verification at the other end of the process. So when the user has the page in the browser, their verification is done in the browser. It's very trivial. When it's sent to the server, we need to do the same verification again, because bots in particular, they will bypass the JavaScript. The JavaScript's really only there for us, for comfort reasons, really, to make sure that we submit all the information we need to. A bot doesn't care. It'll just grab the submission address, it knows what fields that I'm sending, and I'll just try and bombard the target URL with data. So we need to do all the same verification things at the other end. So there'll be a function to do an email username verification. So there'll be specifications on what the minimum size of a username can be, the maximum size of a username can be, a strip HTML, all that basic jargon, Same with email addresses. We'll check for a valid form, make sure it's not too long, make sure we're not trying to send data through that form. Same with the department box, all that kind of stuff. But in order to do that comfortably, it would need access to this information here, which it actually wouldn't have through the submission. This is not part of the HTML. When it's outputted, so this is actually just used for that layout purpose and then thrown away. So we might need to have these definitions hidden away somewhere else, and then when we do the submission here, I'll manually look at what the form is, look up the form, and then do verification against these basic fields, and then if they all pass, then we'll call the submission function to do the actual job of what this function is doing. In this case, sending an email. Other ones with things like signing up people, logging in people, they're different, So there'll be this kind of two-tiered process, really. We're getting the fields from the function, the fields from the form, passing them through verification, and then if they succeed at that level, then we call the actual function to do the task. So if it's a login function, or if it's a join function, or if it's the send email thing, or if it's something to change the password or change the your avatar, or who knows what it might be. We've done some pre-screening and we pass it through and we do that job there. So it should make all of those functions simpler. Should. Anyway, sorry dudes. More ramble from me. I'm definitely happy that we've got something that can do this now. We need to have a bit of extra scrutiny with those and make sure our character limit stuff is in these dynamic ones, so we can have all the same features available to us. So it wouldn't matter what page we put it on; it just appears with there, and that's how I wanted to work all this stuff. I wanted to just include the feature on the page, and it just works. That's it. Our forms are kind of there. They're kind of working. So be nice when it's done and the two sides are rationalised and they're up and running all the way. And I can get rid of this scroller too. I definitely like the. There's a bunch of these transition features now in more modern versions of CSS. The more I feel around with those things, it's like, oh, that's a nice effect. That's where they're showing. So there's little zooms here come from those things there, which I kind of liked. I liked it because it makes it not look so flat, even though it's it's a kind of passe sort of thing to do. You don't need it to hover over those things and have those things there. But if we had that, I think in the gallery here in particular, that would be a nice little asset to it. And have nice rounded corners and nice shadows like the ones that are shown down the bottom there. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Yeah. We're just messing around with the styling. That's all. It takes me as long to style to find the right elements, right, the right settings for us to get something to style right as it does to write something. It's just not. It's so unnatural to me. I don't know why. I find it so confusing. I just do. I like that picture there. I might actually stay there for a while. All right, that'll do us. We might change this from a live video to a screenshot too, because some of these ones here don't have great thumbnails. Like that has no thumbnail at all. That voxel one. It probably needs an engaging thumbnail to get some people to click. Oh, things to do. All right, dudes, that's enough for me. Enjoy yourself. I'll catch you later. Bye.